Okay, so we're going to go over the exponent rules. If you want to go ahead and write down your guided practice, just pause it and go ahead and write those problems down. We're going to get started with the product of powers. The product of powers rule tells us that when we are multiplying powers with the same base, such as the y terms and the z terms, then we can just add the exponents. So what I'm going to do first is use the commutative property to rewrite this multiplication. So I'm going to say 7 times 6. Then I'm going to put my y terms next to each other, y to the 5th. And when we don't have an exponent, the exponent is 1. So I'm going to rewrite this with the exponent of 1 for when I add my exponents. And then I've got z to the 2nd and z to the 3rd. Because it was multiplication all the way through, there's no add, subtract, or divide. I can rearrange this using the commutative property. So we're going to go ahead and multiply the 7 and the 6 and get 42. Then I'm going to add together my exponents on my y's, and when I do that, I get y to the 6th. And then I'm going to add together my exponents on my z's, and when I do that, I get z to the 5th. So my final answer, my simplified expression, would be 42, 6 to the 5th, y to the 6th, and z to the 5th. So we're going to move over, and the next one we're going to talk about is the quotient of powers. When we're dividing, the quotient of powers tells us that we can subtract our exponents. So the first thing we're going to do, if we have a fraction to simplify, we're always going to simplify that fraction first. So I'm going to say that 10 and 15 have a common factor of 5. So I'm going to divide by 5 and divide by 5 to simplify my fraction. And when I do that, 10 divided by 5 is 2, and 15 divided by 5 is 3. And then I'm going to go ahead and write out my subtractions. I've got a to the 7th minus 5. And then I've also got b to the 9th and then minus 2. So when I simplify those, I have 2/3 times 7 minus 5 is 2. So we have a to the 2nd. And then we have 9 minus 2, which is b to the 7th. When we write this all the way simplified, I'm just going to go ahead and multiply out those numerators. Remember, any whole number can be written as itself over 1. So when I simplify this, all my numerators are getting multiplied together. So 2a to the 2nd, b to the 7th, and all my denominators are getting multiplied together. So 3 times 1 times 1 gives me 3. And that's how we would write our finalized answer. Next one we're going to talk about is the 0 exponent. We have a 0 exponent that tells us that anything raised to the 0 power is 1. So when I rewrite that exponent, x to the 0 power is going to give me 1. And then looking at my expression, there are no terms that have the same base, so I can't combine those anymore other than saying that 2 times 1 is 2. So my final answer would be 2y squared. The next one we're going to look at is a negative exponent. Our negative exponent rules say that we can rewrite the power with the positive power in the denominator. So we're going to rewrite it as 2 to the 3rd, and then we're going to put a 1 in the top. So those two are the same expression. And then when I simplify 2 to the 3rd, that means 2 times 2 times 2, so I get 8. So my final answer would be 1/8. And then for the power of a power rule, that tells us when I have a power raised to another power, I'm going to multiply those. It's kind of like distribution. I'm going to take that power on the outside of the parentheses, and I'm going to multiply it to the power inside. So when I do that, I have x to the 2 times 8, which is the same thing as x to the 16th.